I mean, some of us may think, well, wait a minute, I've already been saved. I don't need to be saved from God's wrath. That already happened. No. You don't understand. You have been saved. You are being saved. You will continue to be saved when the day of wrath is revealed because of this gospel. We're still being kept because of this gospel. And this salvation is somewhere out there in the future. But we're going to be saved from it based off of Romans 1:16. So the gospel is the good news that God rescues sinners from God. The gospel is the good news that God rescues sinners from God. It's crazy. When God reveals his wrath on that day, it's going to be like a tsunami of his anger. We've all witnessed these tornadoes and these disasters and earthquakes that have shaken societies. No one will be able to withstand the tsunami of God's anger when it is finally revealed. There is nothing we do. We don't have anything in and of ourselves to save us from this tsunami of anger. We're similar to the Europeans in the 1300s. You know, in the 1300s, there was this disease that swept Europe. 25 million people died from what's called the bubonic plague. Now, in order for them to be saved, they needed a simple antibiotic that we can get today easily. Just go to the doctor. Hey, I need that antibiotic for the bubonic plague. I need that, please. They'll write you a prescription. Go to Walgreens, CVS, get that taken care of. Problem is, in 1300, it didn't exist. So there was no hope for them. It would have taken divine intervention for us to somehow get that medicine and bring it back to the past in order to save them. There was no hope for them other than divine intervention. And it's the same way with us and this plague upon us called sin and unrighteousness. We have no cure other than God divinely intervening to save us from this plague. And the wrath of God will be unlike any plague in history. And there's no hope other than divine intervention. And that divine intervention is the gospel. So, how does the gospel save people? That's the question, right? How? We already talked about it in Romans 1:16. It's the power of God for salvation, right? We know that. And, me and my crew, we run around saying 1:16 based off of Romans 1:16. We got shirts. It might be on the back of this shirt. I got it tattooed on me. Sorry if you're a fundamentalist. I did it. So 1:16 is this rally cry we're always chanting. But let's not forget about Romans 1:17. Because in Romans 1:17 it says, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me explain that to you. Romans 1:18 says God's wrath is revealed against unrighteousness. 1:16 says the gospel is the power to save us. Romans 1:17 says the righteousness of God is that power. The very thing we don't have is righteousness. The very thing God demands is righteousness. And the very thing he reveals and gives to us is righteousness. What God demands, he also freely gives in the gospel. So let me tell you what that verse doesn't say. It doesn't say God is just so loving he has to overlook our sin and say, oh, you did a naughty thing. It's okay, come in here. I save you because I'm love. God is love, and he is loving. But love doesn't mean, well, because I'm loving, I guess I'll just overlook it. No. Love means I'm going to sacrifice something, better yet someone, to deal with what you've all done, with what we've all done. And that's in the gospel. Love is the reason we're saved, but love is outlined in incredible detail, and that's sacrifice, adoption, and sanctification. So let me try to bring this home for a lot of people, because I know I'm not in your neighborhood yet, and I'm coming to your neighborhood, I promise you that. In verse 17, the gospel is the righteousness of God revealed by faith. Okay? Done. Okay. You get it? You got it? Cool. Fine. In verse 16, he saves us. But wait, God, I'm a sinner. How are you going to save me? You're angry at me, right? So what do? God demands righteousness. I don't have it. How can I be saved? Where do I get this righteousness from? And you know what we tend to do? We tend to try to earn it. That's our tendency. I don't have the righteousness God demands, so I got to go get it. So I'm going to clean up and go to church and stop cussing, and I'm going to only drink on the Saturday, and I'm going to smoke cigarettes when no one's looking. And, we try to earn this righteousness. But the thing is, you can't earn righteousness. Right? God demands righteousness. We don't have it. Our only hope is that God would give it to us. We can't live a good life and expect God to see us as righteous. The Bible says your good works are like filthy rags. You don't have what it takes. We can't go to church enough. We can't go to festivals enough. We can't do anything. The way you live your life doesn't earn you salvation, but it can be the evidence of salvation. So the only way we can get this righteousness is if God gives it, because righteousness is only found in God. It's only found in Him. So earning this will never happen for any of us. Where did it come from? Where is this righteousness found? I can tell you it's found in the God-man, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. You see, Jesus is the personification of perfection. Jesus is righteousness, and His death was stepping in our shoes and taking on the full weight of God's anger. He offered up His own righteousness to any of us who would stop trying to earn it. Some of you are saved and still trying to earn your righteousness. Stop. It's been paid for. He's not more pleased with you because you did or didn't do something. He's pleased with His Son when He sees you. Because He sees Jesus' death and resurrection when He sees you. See, if Jesus just died on the cross for us, our sin would be paid for. But He didn't just die on the cross for us. He lived a perfect life. He lived the life we should have lived and died the death we should have died. Paying for our sin and providing us with His righteousness. He says, here, Father, give it to them. You demand it, they don't have it, take mine. Jesus, the Bible said, took on the full wrath of God. Stop trying to earn it. You make Jesus' work look like it wasn't good enough. You know, I used to sneak into the movies back in the day. Well, I used to pay for them too, but I used to sneak into the movies. And I didn't just sneak into the movies, I would sneak food into the movies. So I got used to like sneaking my food in places, because like, oh, you gotta buy popcorn. I'm like, $10 for a box of popcorn, you tripping. I'm gonna microwave me some and take this in there. So I would microwave my popcorn, take it to the movies, and I would eat my popcorn in the movie theater, right? So I got used to that. So, I went on a cruise for the first time, never been on a cruise before. And I heard, you're going to be on there for like 7 days. I'm like, man, I got to bring some food on this cruise because I'm not paying for this food. I'm sure the cruise is expensive. I'm not paying for no expensive food. So I'm thinking about how I'm going to sneak me some food on the cruise. Like, oh man, I'm sneaking food in here. And imagine me with one suitcase full of clothes and another suitcase full of all kind of snacks and treats and stuff like that. And I get on the cruise and I find out the food's already been paid for. It's already taken care of. It's all you can eat, lecrae. You don't have to sneak your food in here. It's worthless. That's what the gospel has done for us, Christians. We don't have to bring our own self-righteousness in. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't work. It's been paid for by Jesus on the cross. It's been done. You can't earn it. The gospel is that God saves us from Himself. He gives us the righteousness that He demands. So stop pretending. Stop pretending you have righteousness that you don't have. It's found in Jesus. Stop pretending there's no God. Stop. You're suppressing the truth. Stop pretending it's too difficult to understand this Jesus thing, so you might as well just do you. I'ma just do me. Stop. Stop. That's the ultimate form of denial. Truth is truth. If you deny you have diabetes, the effects will soon catch up with you. If you deny you're pregnant, you will soon feel morning sickness. It's gonna happen. And if you deny the truth of Jesus Christ, you will face the wrath of God and you will not stand. You will not stand. John 3:36, 1 John 3:36, the wrath remains on those who reject Jesus. Don't do that today. Don't harden your heart today. Don't deny it. You need Him. You need this. You need this because if you're honest, your life isn't perfect. You got problems. You got issues. You got pains. And you know what those things are? Those are the warning signs that something's not right. Life isn't right. And that's the weather forecast saying it's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse until you submit to the gospel. The problem is not child prostitution. The problem is not world hunger. The problem is not poverty. That's not the problem. Those are symptoms of the problem. We do need to address those issues. We do need to feed people. We do need to help people. But what if you fed everybody? What if you helped everybody? What does it profit them to gain the world and lose their soul? The real problem is sin. The real problem is our unrighteousness. The real problem is that God's anger is going to destroy every unrighteous person, and we need a real hope. Not just the evidence of hope. Every time you feed somebody, you love on people, that's the evidence of hope. That's not the hope. That's the evidence that there is a hope, but that's not it. It's not in food and clothing and shelter. That's evidence that there's something more. And that something more is the gospel of Jesus Christ. You need hope from the real problem. And our only hope is in Jesus. The gospel is the power of God. Because in it, God offers to do what we cannot do. Pay our unrighteous debt with His own righteousness. Family, I love you. I love you enough to tell you the truth. The gospel is the power of God to save you from the wrath of God. Don't reject Him. Be obedient. Let this truth transform your heart.